5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Thank you all so much for coming to the Fremont Unified School District's Measure E Community Forum. Tonight we're going to be talking about the Mission San Jose attendance area and the work that's been done in the Measure E program. So we have a short presentation for you. I'm going to go ahead and, introduce our panelists that are with us tonight. We have our wonderful superintendent, Mr. Christopher C.J. Kamick. We have our associate superintendent, Mr. Marcus Battle. We have our director of maintenance and operations, Mr. Kevin Arthur. And we have Mr. Gerald Green, who is with Vanner Construction Management, who is our program manager. And of course, myself, director of facilities and capital projects, Kelly Lynch McMahon. Luis Zamora is our wonderful IT tech who allows us to live stream this wonderful information to you all. And then Sharon Coco is my right-hand person in the facilities department who supports and provides all the support for the facilities department in the Measure E program. So she's here as well this evening to assist me and all of us that are here. So as I stated, we are here tonight to do a update for you all, to inform you as to what all the wonderful things your Measure E tax dollars have been doing, and to provide you with some insight as to what's going to happen and what has been completed, as well as what's going to happen in the future. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and we're going to go through a short presentation. Let's see if this will work. Alrighty. Oops. Share. There it is. I'm going to go ahead and close this out, put this up in the corner, and we will go ahead and run our presentation. I'm going to swap that out. So here's our first slide. And here is language that is taken directly from your Measure E ballot. And it states that every child who attends school in Fremont deserves safe, equitable, well-equipped classrooms and up-to-date science labs. Measure E will improve every Fremont school, not just one or two. Fremont residents will see major renovations and new buildings at schools throughout the community. End of quote. So this is our way of basically celebrating Measure E by giving you all this additional information of what's going on. As I stated in our opening remarks, we're going to review some progress that's been made on the bond program, showcase the projects in your particular attendance area. Our goal is to capture questions from you, the community, and also to provide you all a look ahead at projects that are coming in the future. And as I stated, our panel is our superintendent, Mr. Christopher Kamick, Associate Superintendent Marcus Battle, myself, Director of Facilities, Kelly Lynch McMahon, Director of Maintenance and Operations, Kevin Arthur, and our Program Manager, Mr. Gerald Green. Now, in looking at the Mission San Jose attendance area, Mission San Jose is one of 5 of the attendance areas within the Fremont Unified School District. And it's highlighted here in this map to show you all where it's located. The schools in your attendance area include elementary schools of Chadbourne, Gnomes, Mission San Jose, and Mission Valley Elementary Schools. The middle school that serves your area is Hopkins Middle School, and your high school, of course, is Mission San Jose High School. A little bit of bond history, just so that everybody knows. The bond in 2014 was passed by 61.8% by the voters of Fremont, and they approved $650 million in a general obligation bond, which included work to modernize neighborhood schools under the requirements of the Prop 39 proposition and the School Facilities Local Vote Act. And what that was is Prop 39 is an energy efficiency initiative that was legislation that was implemented statewide that allowed schools to improve their facilities and look at energy efficiency and reducing their carbon footprint. One of the things that we wanted to highlight in this, because we do get many questions all the time, is that, where our Measure E funds spent for things that fall outside of the bond. And so we wanted to make sure that you all know that, no bond money goes to administrators' salaries or benefits other operating expenses that are not bond related. So we always want to make sure that you all are aware of that and not thinking that we're commingling it with our general fund dollars. So when we talk about measuring scope of work, there was a long range facilities master plan that was completed, I believe, back in 2014, which was the basis of how the scope of work was developed for the bond program. And so what that included was an evaluation of work that looked at any upgrades or repairs that were required at your neighborhood schools, looked at technology that were part of aging classrooms, looking at math and science computer labs for 21st century learning, and incorporating the tools that were necessary for them to be compliant with whatever those standards are. We looked at upgrading electrical wiring to current safety standards and codes. We looked to fix and replace leaky roofs, aging plumbing in restrooms, and basically anything that was really sort of beyond repair that was identified and put on a list. We looked at removal of asbestos and any other contaminants. I know if many remember there was a upgrade of the water fountains and looking at lead in piping a few years ago, and we've since been working on that and have accomplished, I believe, 90 to 100% of the removal of all of that in the current facilities. And the other thing that was looked at was the repair, the construction, or the acquiring of equipment for classrooms, sites, and facilities. So I'm going to turn it over to Gerald so he can share with you and introduce the program staff that supports the Measuring program.
Hi, and welcome again for attending the Measuring Community Staff or Community Update meeting. My name is Gerald Green. I am with Vanner Construction Management. We are the program managers for the Measuring Fremont Unified School District construction program. And I'd like to introduce you to our staff. That handsome guy on the left is myself, and I've been on the program about 9 months. Carmen Berkey, our senior project manager, she's been on the program about 2 years, and she focuses on Centerville and Hopkins middle school projects. Deshawn Hall has been with the program about 1.5 years, and she manages the Thornton Middle School, Washington High School Theater, American High School, Walters Middle School, and Horner Middle School projects. David Seth, one of our senior project managers, has been with the program, I think really just under 1 year now, and he is managing the Kennedy High School and Group 1 elementary school projects. Next slide. Also, we have Mr. Rajat Jacob. He's our assistant project manager. He's been with the program about 2.5 years, and he assists with Thornton Middle School, Washington High School Theater, American High School, Walters Middle School, and Horner Middle School projects. Connie Tung is our financial administrator, and she's been with the program the longest. She's been with us about 4 years and manages all budgets and invoices. Melissa Nunez is our contracts administrator, and she's been on the program about 3.5 years and manages all contracts and RFPs and RFQs and bids. Ms. Deborah Moore, she's our project coordinator, and she's been on the program about 7 months, and she manages the project stabilization agreement. Next slide. Also part of the building program are the Proposition 39 lighting upgrade projects. The California Clean Energy Jobs Act, Proposition 39, K-12 program awarded more than $1.7 billion over 5 years to schools to plan and install energy efficiency upgrades and clean energy generation measures. Using Prop 39 funds, 21 campuses benefited from lighting replacement projects throughout the district. Within the Mission San Jose attendance area, the following schools are scheduled for this work: Mission San Jose High School, Chadbourne Elementary School, Gnomes Elementary School, Mission San Jose Elementary School, and Mission Valley Elementary School.
You can continue, Gerald.
Okay. Here, the budget overview for our projects completed to date. We have completed $123,967,435 worth of completed projects. Currently in progress, we have 501,997,138 that are currently under construction in progress in some phase of construction, design, actual construction itself, and so on. Projects that have not been started amount to $35,821,965. Not funded, $0 are appropriate to not funded projects. And in the program contingency, we have $2,219,527. We have some additional funding for Centerville and Hopkins, $4,198,656. And these funds, we took these funds out because on some of the earlier projects, we had some surprises. Some of these campuses are very, very old. And so sometimes when you open things up, you don't know what you're going to find. So we had some soils issues, some geotechnical issues, and the like. And so to mitigate and get out in front for the next series of projects, we want to put a little bit more money to the side, kind of for a rainy day. This totals $668,204,721. And I think the reason why it's over 650 is there's been a certain percentage of interest that has been added to these projects. Is that correct, Kelly?
That is correct. And we've also received some grant dollars from the Office of Public School Construction that was added to this as well.
Thanks. Next. So included in the completed projects are IT upgrades for Chadbourne Elementary School, Gnomes Elementary School, Mission San Jose Elementary School, Mission Valley Elementary School, and Mission San Jose High School. We've done some extensive flooring projects at these campuses, including Chadbourne Elementary School, Gnomes Elementary School, and Mission San Jose High School. Also modernization at Mission Valley Elementary School and other projects, Mission San Jose High School pool replacement. And we'll show you some of those slides as we go through. Scopes of work for the flooring projects include demolition, abatement, and installation of flooring. Chadbourne Elementary School received $165,006 worth of work. Gnomes Elementary School, $71,535, and Mission San Jose High School, $462,909. Scopes of work, IT projects. We did district-wide IT upgrades at 34 campuses, installation of all new data cabling and data racks for wired and wireless internet access points, as well as future VoIP clocks, bells, speakers, and telephones. Total project cost for 34 campuses was $50,152,643. Scopes of work for modernization. Mission Valley Elementary School, construction cost, $1,178,539. HVAC upgrades included domestic water line upgrades, paving upgrades, door hardware upgrades, and school frontage renovation.
All righty. I can go ahead and move on from here, Gerald.
Okay.
So as we talk about our highlighted projects, the pool replacement has been very successful. So as you know, Mission San Jose received a pool replacement and it was completed in 2019. That overall construction cost was $5,452,912. That scope of work included the replacement of the pool, the addition of sports lighting, addition of a mechanical structure that houses the pool filters and machinery that maintain it, And of course, the construction of a new restroom building. And the picture that you see on the left is just a snapshot of the finished work and as the pool exists now. And these are some additional photographs to show the pool deck as well as the new restroom structure. And you can see in the backdrop the additional lighting that's very high on your left and right in the various photographs. Excuse me. When we talk about modernizations, Hopkins Middle School is currently in its design development and soon to start construction. So the project budget for the Hopkins Middle School is $84,061,263. The scope of work will include the construction of new two-story classroom building, a new multi-purpose room, a new music classroom, and of course, all of the support spaces that support those buildings on the outside. So the modernization of the existing buildings will include IT upgrades, HVAC and lighting upgrades, plumbing and restroom enhancements and refreshing, and then flooring and ceiling repair as required based on the reconfiguration of the spaces. Also, the site utilities are being upgraded, site landscaping is also being addressed, and also new additional site fencing and a new reconfigured drop-off pickup zone will occur at Hopkins as well. And this is a rendering of what one of the future buildings will look like. And this is one of the concept drawings. So these drawings are drawings that have already been presented to the board and approved. And as you can see on your far left-hand side, those are 2-point perspective drawings of the main building on the front side, and the drawing that is on your lower left-hand corner is a 2-point perspective of what the building will look like that will house the library. If we go to the center of the building, you have your exterior elevation facing Driscoll Road, and then you have in the center your exterior elevation south facing towards campus. So that would be the perspective of you standing inside campus and looking out. And then the drawing on the very bottom is your south elevation drawing, and that includes one of the buildings that is currently being renovated, and that is what the intended outcome would be. And to your far right in the corner is a floor plan of a typical classroom and what the intended space will look like after the modernization. And as you can see, the accent colors have been coordinated with the school colors. So you will find dashes of color throughout the campus that reflect the school spirit and school colors. When we talk about the Hopkins construction budget, this is how the $58 million is broken down by building and by scope of work. So you can see building J is $10 million, building K is about $15 million. The demo, which is part of the modernization project, accounts for about $500,000. Finishes, which are the paint, lights, wall coverings, things like that, that accounts for 6.9 million. The plumbing accounts for 5.3. The communications, which includes all of the IT and cabling and upgrades required for that 21st century learning we talked about, that accounts for about $1,011,000. Intrusion and detection systems account for 51,000. A fire alarm, we're doing a complete fire alarm overhaul since we're tying a new building and an old building together. That accounts for about 643,000. You have power upgrades because we're increasing capacity at the campus. PG&E is requiring us to bring additional service into the site. So we have to upgrade the amount of power coming into the site to accommodate the growth that's going to happen. Lighting upgrades account for about 2.2 million. Site work and site utility upgrades account for about 12,493,000. And the interim housing, which is temporary housing that we're going to be moving the students and the staff out of the buildings that are going to be either demolished and replaced or modernized into relocatable portables for the duration of the construction. and then they will be moved into the new structures once the work is completed. And that accounts for about 2.538 million of the budget for a grand total of your 58,608,832. So when we talk about the milestone schedule, and these are all dates that are very fluid and very dynamic, but the pre-design work was completed in 2018. Design phase work was completed up through fall of last year. And we are now in our DSA review and approval period where we are anticipating having DSA approval in March of this year. And DSA is the Division of State Architect, and they are our governing regulatory agency that allows school districts statewide to actually perform construction and modernization projects. So they're like our equivalent to the city planning department or building department for our facilities. So the construction phase, we're anticipating having construction begin this summer in June, and the construction will last all the way through June of 2023. We will do final closeout in June of 2023 and be ready for students to occupy in August of 2023. That is our intended schedule, and this schedule was extended by 1 year due to many circumstances, but primarily delays in DSA review due to COVID were our biggest impact to our projects within our program at this point. So when we talk about modernization, we're going to talk about Mission San Jose Elementary School. That has a project budget of $2,636,176. You're going to see HVAC replacements, some roof repair, some flooring replacements, and what we call FF&E, which is fixed furniture and equipment. So you might see some new furniture in classrooms. You might see some new tools and technology for teachers in their classrooms so that they can deliver instruction more efficiently. You might see some walls refreshed and repainted, but overall, the bulk of the budget for this particular school is going to be kind of behind the walls and in the ceiling. So we're not going to have like the wow effect that you have at the Hopkins Middle School, where you're going to see a significant change. But you are going to see some, you will feel some significant changes with the creature comforts of the spaces that the students will occupy with this scope of work we've identified. So when we talk about the milestone schedule, that particular project is in design, pre-design right now, and design phase will start pretty shortly. And what that means is that we have worked out the scope of work, we've identified and assessed each one of the sites, and now the design teams are coming on board to actually now translate that scope of work into plans and specifications for a builder to build to. We anticipate getting our DSA review and approval later this year, and we plan on having construction start at the beginning of next year and complete by June of 2022 for final closeout and occupancy of July of 2022. So hopefully our students will be ready to reoccupy that space in summer of next year or the fall of 2022. So when we talk about unfunded projects are projects that, due to budgetary constraints of the monies that were available in the bond, we were not able to actually address all of the needs that all of the schools had with the funds that we generated from the Measure E program. So in 2019, the Facilities Advisory Committee advised the board on how to prioritize and reallocate the remaining Measure E project funds. And so in the decision that the board made at that time, that is when they chose to consolidate and address the middle schools and the growth that they were anticipating at the middle schools and prioritize that over all of the other projects that were originally identified in the long range facilities master plan. So the one thing that the board did prioritize was the removal of any contaminants or hazards that would impact the health and safety of students and staff that were occupying any of the sites district-wide. And so that was addressed and taken care of. So that's no longer an issue for us to actually worry about. So some of the unfunded projects that fall in your attendance area have been identified as the Chadbourne Elementary School Modernization and the Mission San Jose School Modernization. And if we look at our previous long-range facilities master plan, that was a much larger scope of work in, basically revamping both of those campuses completely. And unfortunately, that work cannot be completed because we just don't have sufficient funds to address that need for these particular schools at this time. So at this point, I'd like to thank all of you guys for your continued support of the Measure Bond program and let you guys know that you've done an awesome job in supporting our school district and that these projects that you guys have seen are a direct result of the supported efforts that you all have committed to the school district and us being able to provide really, really great facilities and a quality education to your students. So if there's any additional questions or any comments or anything, please feel free to email myself or Gerald Green at the emails that are identified here. But I'm going to turn it back over to our superintendent to go ahead and turn things over.
Well, thank you very much, Kelly. And I just want to extend my thanks to our attendees and of course to the staff who put this together. It is certainly very great to have the support that we do from our community in such a bond project. And I know that the community isn't here to hear directly from me. So at this point, I'll turn it over to Sharon, who can help us access our community input and comment.
And I need to
You make me the host. We'll be ready to go.
I just made you the host.
Thank you. Okay, so at this moment, I do not see any raised hands, but it appears there's 5 in the Q&A sec. Oh, never mind. I see one. Arunava Saha, go ahead.
Yeah, hi. I just had a question about the whole Hopkins school conversion. I know that we're kind of trying to make the state of the art, and I was curious about are we, because I know we're going to do PG&E upgrades, they're making you do it. Are we installing solar panels and that kind of stuff, more renewable based energy sources in order to kind of reduce our costs in the long term, or is that not in the budgets right now? And if so, why not? I'm just curious.
So to answer your question, yes, we are looking at the options available for that to happen. This particular project does not have the funding available in it to actually install the solar panel for this school, but the school will be solar ready at the completion of the construction program. So what that means is that we are putting all of the infrastructure in place that's required for us to be able to utilize solar. But the Board of Trustees has to, one, make a decision on if we are going to take advantage of the solar programs that are out there, and then provide direction to us as to which schools they want to actually have that implemented at first. So we are addressing it by including it in our scope of work on the infrastructure side of the house, making sure that the new projects will be ready. But I don't have an answer as to when that will actually occur until they direct us otherwise to actually implement it.
And Kelly, while we're waiting for more folks to raise their hand, we'll go to some of the Q&A and I'll read a couple of the questions. It says, can you please address why the brown drab colors are being used on the street facing buildings? Shouldn't the schools be more inviting and welcoming with colors? Kelly?
Yes, I was just going to say, in which project are they referring to? Are they referring solely to Hopkins, or are
Hopkins,
they referring
right?
to...
Because that's the one you showed the designs on.
Oh, okay. It is my understanding and on, well, how can I say this? There was a site committee that was created that included the principal, members of staff, as well as some parents within the community who met with the design team. And they actually worked with them over several meetings to come up with a color scheme that was actually then chosen and approved by them. And they made a recommendation to us. And then I then proceeded to take that to the board for approval. So the school colors are that are reflective of what you see on the renderings that were provided. Also, there are district standards that we have for our exterior colors. And we have, I believe, and Kevin, you can speak to this because I don't know the full history of it, but I do know that we do have a set of standard colors for the exterior of our buildings as well as some of the interiors of, classroom spaces or offices. And that's due to us having the ability to maintain and, support those campuses or, just maintain and upkeep of them.
So Kelly, second question, do you happen to know the cost per square foot for construction?
Cost per square foot.
And if not, you can just,
Gerald, do you?
Yeah, it's between $800 and $900 per square foot now, currently.
okay. Kelly, and I take it that the building cost will include the interior desk and furnishings and all of the FF&E.
Yes, that is my understanding that we have addressed and allocated a budget for classroom furniture and cabinets and storage and all the things that make a classroom a functional classroom.
Okay, so another cost question regarding breakdown of the cost of design and the pre-design phase.
Say that one more time, Marcus. Let me see if I can see it, 'cause I'm
What
not
was
sure
the
I understand.
breakdown of the cost for the design and pre-design phase?
I don't have that information handy, but I can actually look that up and provide a response to that question.
Okay. Do you anticipate any increase in cost for design to the architectural firms, possibly due to DSA review?
We have allocated a certain amount of money to anticipate those kinds of things. And so for right now, we have not experienced that cost escalation, but we are anticipating some to come forward, but they have not materialized as of yet.
All right, and we'll throw this question to Vanner, our program manager. What are the odds of Hopkins Middle School conversion timeline to get delayed beyond fall 2023?
Wow. Let me look at my crystal ball here. We don't anticipate any more delays. We think that we've mitigated for that fact. But the schedule is based on the conditions right now. If things change, if kids are returned back to school at some point soon, we'll have to modify our schedules, and we make every effort not to extend the construction beyond the dates that we've given you. So we don't anticipate any more delays at this time.
Okay, thank you. Kelly, next question. We believe the board wants solar at all of the converted sites. Isn't that more important than fences that you are proposing to build at Wednesday night's board meeting?
I do not have an opinion on that particular question. I mean, of course, solar is always very important, but I believe that fencing is equally important since, we have been hit dramatically with vandalism and theft at all of our sites since we have been in shelter in place. And so I don't have a quantified cost of what that impact is to us, but it is significant. And so we, as a priority at this point, have identified fencing because it does deter people from accessing the sites. It deters people from damaging the property or the assets of the properties that we do own. And solar has not been something that has been approved. And I do not have permission at this point by having board direction to actually implement that. So if that is a priority that they feel we should address, then they should let us know that and let the board know that it's a priority. And then we can act accordingly based on what they've directed us to do. But I think both are equally important, and we're trying to address it as we have the ability to within our purview.
Okay, Kelly.
I would just add that,
Right.
you know, we do have a lot of competing needs within the district. And I know the trustees have asked that we look at solar as an agenda item in the future. I believe it'll be coming up in the very near future, but we do have a number of very important items at the next meeting as well. Not to say that things that aren't on the agenda aren't important, but it certainly is on the radar for our trustees as well. Since my arrival, I've heard it discussed.
Okay, thank you. So next question, where were all the high schools modernized except for Mission San Jose High School? If so, why was the pool renovation chosen over the modernization?
Unfortunately, I don't really know what the answer is to that one because the pool modernization was completed prior to my arrival. So
And
I don't know.
yeah, and I would agree with that. That was prior to our arrival in the district, so we're not sure about the priorities around the pool renovation, but it obviously was something I believe that the community probably advocated for to the board, and the board, I'm assuming, and the board approved that modernization. But I don't think they would have approved that over a full high school modernization. But um, and I guess that would, you know, we could research that a little bit more, Kelly. If
Well, I know the full modernization for Mission San Jose was around $128 million. So when we look at, we only, of the needs assessment that was completed, there was a needs assessment of about $1.68 billion that was identified in need. But the bond measure only covered 650 million of 1.6 billion. So really you're only looking at a third of the funds that you would need to fully address all the needs that were identified district wide. And I believe the board of trustees and the administrators that were in place at that time worked to create a list of prioritization based on what was the need at the time, and they prioritized accordingly. And I think one of the things that people need to understand is that we have, when the long range facilities master plan is done, each and every asset or piece of property that the district has is evaluated, and there's a scorecard given to that piece of property. And if the scorecard ranks in, you know, great condition, medium condition, poor condition, or needs repair or full replacement, um, those are then evaluated, and those folks at that time evaluated those scorecards of those facilities and created the priority that they see right now. Just to give folks an update, we are doing the update of the long range facilities master plan now because that's done every 5 years. And at the completion of this process, we will then have a new list or an old list of the things that hadn't been done to identify where our needs are in current 2021 terms versus when that needs assessment was done in 2014. We had a very different landscape that we were looking at in terms of what our facility needs were.
Thank you, Kelly. So the next two questions will be for our construction project manager, Vanner Construction. So does the district require only union labor? Why are the construction costs so high?
So part of that's a good question. Part of the reason why construction costs are so high is because it's based on the price per square foot. So in 2014, the price per square foot was $300 or $400 per square foot. And now that same money doesn't buy you the same thing in 2021. It's almost double. And you do some forecasting when you do these kinds of projects and you add escalation and inflation, you account for some of that, but no one had a financial model that would have said that it's going to double by 2021. So it's almost like someone coming to buy your house and offering you in 2021, but only offering you 2014 prices, right? I mean, you can't get that. So that's the reason, part of the reason. The other,
Thank you. Gerald, I think on the first question, our district is a PLA district, which means
Yep.
that we do have a project labor agreement. So we are required to use union labor.
yep, that's what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
Marcus?
Okay, so the next question, is there any reason that would delay or speed up the completion of this project?
Which project? Hopkins?
We're still talking about Hopkins.
Could you repeat the question again, Marcus?
Is there any reason that would delay or speed up the completion of the project? Is there anything that would speed it up or delay it at this point?
So, I mean, yeah, unforeseen site conditions could delay it. Like things that we didn't anticipate, for instance, the DSA issue that Kelly spoke of earlier. DSA, like Kelly says, our governing body. And when COVID hit, they didn't have enough people. Everybody was rushing to DSA statewide, and they didn't have enough architects and engineers to account for everybody. They were bringing people out of retirement. And some of those delays were things that we didn't anticipate that. We didn't anticipate COVID, and there was nothing that we could really do about it. For Hopkins, we don't anticipate any more delays. Could we accelerate? Yes, wherever there's opportunities to accelerate, we try to do that. And we think that this schedule reflects the acceleration under the circumstances that we're currently in.
Right, and we do invite our participants to raise your hand if you also have questions. We love the Q&A, but we also love to hear your voices. So if you would like to talk or raise your hand or ask us a question, we'll be more than happy to engage you also. Next question, it just says 5 million for plumbing costs. It's from anonymous for question mark. It says all trenching and so on would be covered under site work. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. Gerald, you can also add to that if you'd like.
Yeah, that is correct. That is correct.
Okay.
Everything.
And this is from, and I know that I'm not going to pronounce the name correctly, Yosna Rao. Is a fence between Gomes and the park something that will be considered?
Unfortunately, I'm unfamiliar with that particular site and the orientation of where the park and the school is. So I don't want to speak to something that I'm not familiar with, but if there is a opportunity for us to secure the interior perimeter of our campuses, we are going to take that under consideration.
Okay, and the next one is just a comment. It says, as far as we know, the pool was approved and it had to go ahead, so that's fine. Next, what had been slated for the Mission San Jose High School modernization that is now not being done? Do you know that, Kelly, or is that something we have to research?
I know a little bit about it, but I can actually take some time and do some further research. But there was, when we talk about a full modernization, we're talking about like, adding new buildings and totally gutting, structures and redoing them. And so when you look at a budget of $128 million, that's basically a brand new campus that was anticipated. So I would make the assumption based on that budget that they were planning and looking at doing a full overhaul of that campus. And as I said, I can look further into it, but that's just my opinion based on my first level glance and understanding of what we identified.
And next from anonymous attendee, what is the plan to update the long range facility plan?
We're currently doing that now. It's currently being updated as we speak.
So I think to elaborate further on that question, so there was a consultant that was hired in December, and we are now in February, and they have met with myself and district staff twice, and we are now in the process of putting the plan together. And once that is completed, we're hoping that'll be done within the next 2 weeks or so. We will then present that information to the administrators, and they will then take it to the board and we'll discuss it as to what the next steps will be. But it's my understanding that we will be reaching out to all of the sites, i.e. the principals at each one of the sites are going to be contacted. The Long Range Facilities Master Plan team will also be coordinating with maintenance and operations as well as facilities and creating opportunities to access sites to do their evaluations. And they will be contacting and interviewing site staff via Zoom over the next 3 months. We have a total of 43 sites that will be assessed, and we're anticipating having that process begin at some point in March. Right now, this week, we have a meeting where we're going to be reviewing some of the surveys that have been created to capture information from people. So once we do that, we will then have a better idea of how quickly we can actually roll out information and capture data from the participants at all the sites. Once that information is completed and compiled and we've assessed all of the sites, there then will be another 2 groups that will be created to evaluate that information and begin the prioritization process that we talked about earlier. And then that includes, committee members, community members, administrators, teachers, parents, all of those.
Kelly, that's fine. We want to make sure we get through all the questions.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So next anonymous attendee, basically they're saying you, and I've noticed through some of the questions, there's a lot of questions about the cost. And I don't believe that the public is feeling that you all are answering the question fully. So if we could probably give more detail on the cost. They want to know, why is it so high? Why is it almost double? Well, in this particular question is, why is it more than building a house? And Kelly, we'll let you answer that. But they also are just wondering what kind of costs are in there that are increasing.
So let me make sure I understand the question. So they want to know, why is it more expensive to build a school than a house?
Right.
And what costs are included that we should.
What's really driving the high cost of construction?
Okay, Gerald, I'll let you take a first stab at that.
Yeah, so like I said before, a lot of it is market driven. Again, when the first long range facilities master plan was completed in 2014, the price per square foot was about $300 to $400 per square foot. Now it's $800 to $900. It's just market driven. It's the same reason why your house is worth more in 2021 than it was in 2014. So that's part of it. Some of it is the industry, the construction industry, meaning available contractors. When there's more work to do than contractors to actually build the work, they can inflate their cost as well. It is a competitive procurement that we do, but we can't direct the industry not to increase their cost, and we certainly can't drive the market from increasing the price per square foot. So that's the majority of it. Kelly, you can elaborate if you'd like.
So the other part of that question is, why does it cost more to build a school than to build a house? Our houses are not regulated to the same level of standards that our public facilities are. So if you build a bathroom in your house, a bathroom renovation for your residents is anywhere between $7,000 to $12,000 to rip it all out, put a new sink, a new toilet, and a new tub, put the tile and the paint and all that stuff. For a bathroom in a public facility, it's between $25,000 and $50,000 to renovate, based on what size and requirements are required for the utilities that come into the house that support the bathroom, as well as the fixtures and the plumbing mechanisms that are used are a much higher grade and quality that you actually then put into your house. So it's an unfair question.
And Kelly,
you know,
Right, and might I also add that when you're building a bathroom for your home, you don't have to meet ADA requirements, which
no,
is
you don't.
disability accessibility. But for any school bathroom, we have to make sure that it's handicap accessible and
And,
has proper level of spacing and so forth.
and, and also I'll add to that, Marcus, too, when you're doing, when you're spending taxpayer dollars versus building, modernizing a bathroom at your house, there's a lot of other things that are taken into account to protect those taxpayer dollars. So there's bonds that have to be met. You have to meet DSA requirements. So there's several things within a public works contract to protect taxpayer dollars that make it more expensive than, say, remodeling a house. And that's just the way it is. And you want those things in there so someone doesn't take your money and, leave the country or whatever, because those are your taxpayer dollars and they have to be protected. And the mechanisms that are used add cost to the cost of the actual work itself, if that makes sense.
Well, the other thing, Gerald, too, that ties into what you're talking about is that, all of the contractors that we use, we talked about before, we do have a project labor agreement in place that does require us to pay union per hour wages. But also, our contractors have to be licensed, bonded, and insured. And all of those things add added expenses to the scopes of work that you want them to perform. So, for instance, I don't know, for the Washington Theater, I think that contractor, they have to have an insurance capacity or a bonding requirement double the cost of their contract. And I believe that's around $5.5 million that they're required to be insured for. There's an expense related to that. Also, their bonding company requires them to have a certain amount of bonding capacity so that in the event they fail, we, the district, have the ability to go after the completion of that work through their bonding company. There's fees associated with that. So there's many levels of added cost that are not present when you're actually doing a residential modernization or new construction.
Thank you, Kelly. Since there's a lot of questions about cost, is there somewhere on our website or somewhere if somebody wanted to see the cost, they could see the cost for a project?
I believe that on the website, we have a general document that's available for people to see of what all of the project budgets are for all of the different projects. I do not believe that we have a detailed breakdown available for public viewing, but if anyone has any particular questions about any particular item, I'd be happy to research it and provide them that information.
Okay. Were all the other high schools modernized except for Mission San Jose High School?
No, I do not believe so. I do not believe so. Kennedy High School is having modernization work right now. Irvington had one new building that was done. And I don't believe that there's any other high school that's had any additional work. American has had one new building, but they didn't have a full modernization. And I'm drawing a blank.
Washington.
Washington, thank you.
Washington, yeah.
The Washington High School, they are not having a full modernization. They've received, I believe, one new science building, and I believe they're only getting their theater modernization.
Theater, yeah.
And that's a $3.5 million
$3.5
project,
million,
and that's
yeah.
very project specific. But no, I don't believe that everyone has had a full modernization, but I think everybody's getting something done on their campuses.
Okay, thank you, Kelly. And I'll tell Ruella Lowe, if we still haven't answered your question, please come on live so we can talk to you, because they were concerned whether or not we properly answered their question about the high cost of construction. So if you still have that question, please come live and so we can get a better understanding of what exactly you would require. And that Ruella said that they would like a proper accounting of the high construction costs. So we'll see if I'm sorry, because I don't know Ruella, but if you can come on live, that would be great. And then we can properly address your question. This in another question, anonymous. Who are you using to help with the long range facility plan? What company are you using?
We're using AE3 Partners and Steinberg Architects.
Okay, thank you. And how can the community and the parents participate in the discussions around the long range facility plan?
Once we finish the actual survey that we're reviewing this week, if once that information is sent out to the families, it would be great to just respond promptly to the information and answer the questions that are being asked. And I believe once we get those surveys back, that information will be compiled. And then there'll be another opportunity for folks to volunteer and participate in the evaluation committees of, what's going to happen next. So if there's anything that they want to do, just always respond to the request for information that's being sent out.
Okay, and the last question we have really deals with the project labor agreement, Kelly and Gerald. And I don't know if each one of you want to answer it from your own perspectives, but the question is, and it's really a question that a lot of districts, comes up in a lot of districts, since the work has to go through unionized contractors, since we are a PLA district, how are we ensuring that the bids are competitive, that we're not being overcharged because we are in a PLA? And that's probably a little tough question there.
So let me see, I'll take a stab at this. So the PLA agreement mostly goes to the labor force that the contractor is allowed to use. What's his permanent labor force? Basically, he can use so many of his own employees before he has to go to the unions to hire labor. That's basically what the PLA regulates, how many of his so-called core employees he can use. When a contractor, the way we ensure that it's a competitive process, we use a design bid build procurement or design build procurement, and the contractors build labor into their cost. That's a line item, just like materials and everything else, into their cost. So they know that if they're going to have to go to the labor union for so many employees, they're going to have to build that into their cost. And every district has some sort of PLA or PSA, Project Stabilization Agreement, Project Labor Agreement. They're the same thing. So they build that into their cost, but they're still competitively bidding for the project or competitively proposing for the project along with every other contractor. So they all have to do the same thing. It's not like one necessarily has an advantage over the other. It's still a competitive process. I don't know if that answers the question.
Well, the other thing I'd like to add too is that we also have multiple solicitations that go out. So it's not like we're only talking to one particular contract. We have to abide by public contract code, which requires us to do a solicitation and at minimum get 3 competitive bids returned in order for us to, actually execute any contracts. And for us, we usually get 3 to 4 competitive bids that are returned. Those are then evaluated and a decision is made to either choose the lowest bid or either the best value based on what has been returned to us as what the price is of whatever it is that they're bidding on.
Thank you, Kelly and Gerald. And final question we have, what was the cost overrun of building Horner and Walters? You all know the answer to that? Or?
I don't know that off the top of my head, but I can research it and provide an answer to them. Because the history behind those 2 projects predated me and those budgets were adjusted prior to my arrival. So I don't really know the history or the actual numbers of what the original budget was versus what it landed at when the projects were actually completed. So I'm not comfortable in answering that until I get more information.
Thank you. And that's our last question of this evening. If there's no more questions from our participants and no hands raised, I will, Kelly, allow you to close it out.
All right, well, thank you all so much for your participation this evening. I really appreciate your feedback and your questions. And I hope that if there are questions that we have not answered, you all do contact us and we'll be more than happy to provide whatever information with the resources that we have available. Thank you again and have a wonderful evening. And I look forward to seeing everybody again at the end of the year when we do another one. Take care.
Thank you.
You all.
Right.